and welcome to the Gut Health Immunity Summit, sowing your own seeds of health. I'm Ann Metcalf, I'm your host, and I'm just so glad that you decided to join all of us, what I consider heart-centered speakers. With this summit, our goal is for you to walk away with new discoveries, ancient wisdom, and tools to a healthier you. Thank you for saying yes to your successful and perhaps first steps to the whole optimum wellness that you have. Be your own advocate. And it's a reminder that your health is your business, and it's important to educate yourself, to take that responsibility, to discern what is right for you in this moment, and to go forward with grace and compassion. As some of you may be stepping out of your comfort zone, and today, it's a real pleasure to introduce our next speaker, Melissa Deely. Melissa is an integrative health practitioner and a registered health coach dedicated to helping her clients get to the root cause of their health issue and truly heal by bringing the body back into balance while creating a new lifestyle habits to ensure lasting results. She also hosts the Don't Wait for Your Wake Up Call podcast. Love that name, Melissa.
Thank you.
Offering practical education around health. And Melissa uses a two-prong approach: discover your toxic load and discover your body's imbalances and support them with natural supplements and herbs so that the body can come back into balance, at which point it will heal itself. And this is done through the use of functional medicine, lab tests, mailed to your home. So welcome to the virtual world of healing. And for those of you who need or like to have the high level of support, Melissa is there for you all the way. And she recently became the winner of the 2021 Quality Care Award by Businesses from the Heart. Congratulations, Melissa. That's fantastic.
Thank you so very much.
And I was thinking, maybe we could start with your knowledge about sort of our gut being the epicenter of our health. I know how important that is because the research has just been coming out in the recent years, especially, and something I didn't know 20 years ago when I was diagnosed with sarcoidosis. They didn't have this knowledge, and what was then considered a autoimmune, now we're looking at it as it's an inflammation within the gut. And so I think it's really important for our listeners to understand, we don't need to be true scientists, but we do need to be a type of scientist who is willing to investigate these things and to, what is some of this knowledge we need to know so that we can make those decisions. And so we've got these toxins that mess things up and throw our bodies off balance. So Melissa, I'll let you jump in and talk about all this.
So there's so many things that you've said so far, and I agree with every bit of it. And one of the things that you were alluding to there is also that you don't know what you don't know, right? And so that's where it is really important to recognize that our health is our greatest asset. Or as my banner says, health isn't everything, but without it, everything else is nothing. So we truly must prioritize it. And yet, many of us have been raised to believe that if we get sick, we go to the doctor, they give us a pill, and they make us better. But that's giving up our power to the doctor, who in our busy world today really can only give you 7 to 15 minutes of their time. And that's not enough time for them to truly understand what's going on with you. And so that's why in today's world, I love to educate people around their health. But the biggest thing is to educate people around the importance of taking responsibility for our health. And to your point, that doesn't mean you have to become a scientist. And so that's why I have my podcast to teach people steps that they can take, that they can implement easily into their life. And I take the science and make it understandable, because apparently that's my gift. It's a gift I didn't know I had, but apparently that's my gift, right? Is sharing the knowledge that I love to learn in ways that people can easily understand it. And that's so important, because when we understand it, then we can follow through and we can, start to make these changes. And to your question about toxins and the gut being the epicenter of our health, yes, very new knowledge. And yet, Hippocrates said 2000 plus years ago that all disease starts in the gut. But now we have the science to prove that he was right. It still blows my mind as to how he knew that 2000 years ago. But now the science shows that he's right. And my work as an integrative health practitioner is very much a detective. I'm helping people figure out the puzzle pieces and get to that root cause of what's going on. And it's different for every single person because our microbiomes are so different and so unique. But it's epigenetics and this new science really in the last 10 years that tells us why our gut is so important. And that is the fact that it's our genes plus the environment we create inside our body that trigger our health outcomes or determine our health outcomes. It's not just our genes. And we used to think that it was just our genes. I mean, how many people have heard, oh, well, if your grandmother had breast cancer and your mother had breast cancer, then you're going to get breast cancer, right? We have to be careful what we believe, because what we believe we focus on and we can make that happen. But the reality is that 90 to 95% of all diseases are triggered by the environment you create inside your body, not by your genes. Your genes are only 5 to 10% of that equation. So in 90 to 95% of the situations, it's the environment you create that triggers those genes to turn on disease. And the environment you're creating is that inflammatory environment you talked about earlier that triggers the genes to turn on disease. So what if we don't create that inflammatory environment? We can do that. We can choose to create a body that is inhospitable to disease. We just need to know how. And that's what, in these early days of this new science, isn't yet being taught through public health or our education system. But it's what I teach, because on the holistic side, we seem to be able to move more quickly and bring this information to people sooner. And so the starting point of that is looking at someone's toxic load. And you might be like, what's your toxic load? Well, we live in a toxic world. Since World War II, 144,000 man-made chemicals have been introduced. And the human body was never designed to have to deal with that kind of burden. And so it's getting bogged down. Our liver and kidneys are charged with keeping our body pure and clean and cleansing our blood every 6 minutes, except that they're getting bogged down by all of these toxins. They just can't keep up. And it's not just the man-made chemical toxins, but it's antibiotics, it's birth control, it's processed food and sugars and energy drinks. It's also stress that causes this, and viruses that all bog down our poor liver. And on top of that, we have nutrient deplete soils. So the liver is undernourished and overburdened, as I say. And the reason it's undernourished is because of those nutrient deplete soils and the nutrients that it needs to function optimally and be able to complete phase 2 of liver detoxification, which is a phase where the toxins become water soluble so our body can excrete them. Those nutrients are no longer in our soil. So if they're not in our soil, they're not grown into our food, so we're not eating them. So that's what I mean by overburdened and undernourished. So our liver struggles to keep our body clean. If it can't get the toxins out, it will store them in our adipose tissue, our fat closets, because it wants to protect them from getting into our bloodstream. This causes inflammation in the body. It causes imbalance, and the imbalance is triggering the inflammation. Left unchecked over time, that inflammation triggers our cells to turn on disease. So if we can learn how to create a body that's inhospitable to disease by supporting our liver, by getting those toxins out, by understanding where our body is imbalanced, we can lower our inflammation load, and those genes never need to get turned on. It's that simple, but it's not easy in today's world because of our toxic load, because of the high use of antibiotics, because of what's in our processed food, et cetera, and what is sold in grocery stores by the food industry that is out to make a buck. They don't care about our health, right?
Yep.
So this is what I help people do. So I start people with a quiz, and that quiz is an aha, because it's asking about symptoms. And when we have symptoms, it's our body's way of asking us to do something differently. But in our busy do, go world, we're all trying to do the best we can. I know, we're raising families, we're earning an income, we're, maybe trying to look after ourselves if there's time, etc. We are just always trying to do one more thing. And so we tend to ignore these symptoms. And as a society, we write them off as, oh, it's aging, it's genetics, it's seasonal allergies, and we don't do anything differently. So then whatever's going on continues to brew underneath the surface, and we're largely unaware of it because we continue to ignore the symptoms until sometime the body's had enough and it sends us a bigger symptom. And I liken this to our body first talks to us gently in the form of a whisper. And if we don't listen, it gets louder and it might thump us with a brick. And if we still don't listen, it gets really loud and it whacks us with a wrecking ball. And we probably all know someone that's happened to. And with 2020 perfect hindsight, they recognize that there were the whispers and there was the brick. And I like to work with people at the whisper or the brick stage, so we never have to get to the wrecking ball stage.
Yeah, because that wrecking ball stage, Melissa, it's huge, a huge impact for people, because all of a sudden, they've got this disease, and then they run off to the doctor, and then they're like, oh my gosh, like, what do I do? And I love the fact that you are getting people to listen to the whisper and the little bricks, because our body, I just call, our body loves us so much that it takes in what we ingest,
Right.
and of all those environmental things. And some of the air pollutants you can't do too much about, but we can do something with what we're eating, our habits. So I just love that you can take people through that process and bring that awareness to them. And even with this summit and you talking about it, and I hope that some of these listeners are going, oh, and I hear people have, surgery done because, well, their aunt or their uncle had this, so sometimes they have surgery to prevent that from happening. And I'm going, oh, if they knew what you're talking about, they wouldn't have that sort of, I don't know what to call it, profile.
Hi. Oh, you're muted.
Well, that's a little momentary glitch.
Yes.
Anyway, I'm just saying that I'm so grateful that you are here sharing that process that our body is going through. It talks to us constantly. So these diseases that people are being diagnosed with have been coming along a long time.
Yes, you don't just wake up with it overnight, like you didn't have it last night and then you wake up with the disease in the morning. These are forming in our body over time. And our body doesn't make mistakes. Our body is always trying to do what's right for us, as you say, and it's always trying to, we do this and it's trying to counter it. But there does come a point where the body just can't keep up. And that's when, we start to get the brick or the wrecking ball. Alzheimer's, for an example, that is a lifestyle disease. That is something that we can help people prevent when people know how to create a body that is inhospitable to disease. For those that by the time they get the diagnosis, they could have had it for 20 to 30 years.
Wow.
How many people, if they had known, would have done things differently? Right? It's not hard. Exactly. It's not hard to do things differently. You just have to know. And that was me. I was in the corporate world for years. I didn't know any of this. Then when I, got let go and changed careers and got into health coaching and started learning this, I had an aha that what if the whole world just had to take this one course as mandatory course? We wouldn't have the illness that we have today, right? But obviously not everyone has time to just take a year off to take this course. But the other piece of that is I was going, oh, well, if only I'd known, if only I'd known, if only I'd known, right? So then I was able to implement these things then, but there was a piece of me that wish I'd known so much of it when my kids were little, right? For my own self-care, for my own sleep, for all of these things, right? But it's never too late. That's the other wonderful thing about the human body is it's never too late to start looking after it. And when we create the environment for it to heal, it starts to heal so quickly. And then that motivates you to keep going. So as I said, I have my quiz. And so that's the aha for people to start recognizing the symptoms that they have and that it's not just aging, they can actually do something about it. And what they can do about it is do a functional medicine liver detox with me. And it's a guided program because it's a powerful program. It's not just the detox you buy on the supermarket shelf. I liken that to, if you have overflowing trash cans in the park, the supermarket detox will kind of take away everything on top of the trash can. But the trash can's still full, right? Whereas my detox created by a naturopathic doctor to truly support our liver and our kidneys and our body in getting these toxins out empties that trash can. So it's a guided program because everybody starts in a different place of health and everybody's bodies respond differently. And so people have questions and I answer those questions for them by guiding them through it. And that's what helps lead people to success. Because when we can get our questions answered, then we know we're doing it properly and we can talk back to our brain that is going, what are you doing? This is different. You don't even know if you're doing it right. Why don't you just come back over here into your comfort zone where I know I can keep you safe doing what you used to do, right? But when you know you're doing it right, because you know you can get answers, you can talk back to your brain and say, no, I'm on this. I know what I'm doing, and I'm going to bring you over here to a new place of health. So that's part of the importance of the guidance and the support. But it's also that when we start the program, because it's so powerful, very often inside the first 7 days, people start to notice better energy, better sleep, less brain fog, more mental clarity, less inflammation, therefore less joint pain, etc. And it's different for everyone, but that then gives them the belief that this does work. I can do this because their body's responding and telling them that it likes it, right? And then that motivates them to keep going. So as I said, when we create that environment for the body to heal, it will heal and let us know because our body is always wanting to work in partnership with us.
Yeah, that's the beauty of our body. I did that, basically it was 20 years ago, and I went on a raw food diet. I don't know what the initial cause of the sarcoidosis, it was in my lungs.
Mm-hmm.
And I was a sort of, I guess, a retired registered nurse at that point. And my doctor didn't know much about it. And so I went online and it said that a third of those who get sarcoidosis end up on prednisone. Well, as a nurse, I'm going, the moon face, the weight gain, because these are body effects when we take pharmaceuticals.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just noticed recently there's a lot of advertisements on the TV from the pharmaceutical industry about rashes. Oh, you don't want a rash? We have something to give you. And they're not doing what you're doing and going and looking at what's the cause of that rash. Your body's got a reason for it, and we really need to just, I think, appreciate this divine design
Mhm.
that our body has. It recognizes whole food. I can't even remember the number you gave at the beginning. It's like almost 170,000 or something additives.
144,000, yeah, man-made
144,000
chemical toxins.
man-made
Yeah.
toxins. And so, like, one, I don't know if you want to speak to that for our listeners, is because that's 144,000. Are there some foods perhaps that those are concentrated in, that they can say, what are some steps that I can take to release, to reduce that toxic load?
Yes. So there's many ways we can reduce our toxic load. And I just want to talk to the pharmaceutical industry for a second too, because you brought it up that when the doctor gives you a prescription drug, it is a man-made chemical in and of itself. And very often it's masking symptoms. People want the pain to go away, so the doctor's giving them something to make the pain go away. But it's not getting to the root cause of the issue. And so the body doesn't recognize that as being the solution. Therefore, another symptom will be provided. And when you go back to the doctor again, maybe it's a rash. Now you're going to get another pharmaceutical chemical drug to get rid of the rash, as opposed to recognizing the rash is probably your body expelling the toxins of the first drug in the first place, right? So in terms of the toxins and reducing our toxic load, there are things that we can do. Absolutely. One source is our food, because the food industry is wanting to make a profit. They want longer shelf life on products. And one way they can add to the shelf life of products is to add chemical ingredients into the box, the bag, whatever it is, to give that. So yes, there's chemicals in our food. There's over 50 names of sugar these days, because people started catching on to the fact that sugar was in many things. And then the food industry just starts making more GMO sugars because it's less expensive for them to do that, as well as coming up with scientific names so people didn't really know what they meant. So the reality is that we need to be reading food labels, and you should avoid products where you have no idea what that long chemical word is. You don't know what it is. You don't even know how to pronounce it.
Yeah.
Because it's some kind of chemical or GMO product that your body doesn't need to be ingesting. So I always suggest to people that they shop the perimeter of the grocery store, because the perimeter of the grocery store is where you find your whole foods. I also am not somebody that tells people whether they should be eat animal protein or plant protein. I help people discover what's right for their body, because as I said earlier, every microbiome is different and goes back 4 generations on our mother's side. So where did your great-great-grandmother live? Because it might not be Canada, it might not be the US. So your microbiome goes back to that. So what culture is your heritage? Because that's more of what your microbiome might be looking for, right? So understanding how you need to eat for your body is really important, not just following keto because it's on every supermarket shelf, or paleo or carnivore or whatever, or because your friend lost 30 pounds on this diet, so you should do it as well. And then you try and you don't lose 30 pounds and you think there's something wrong with you. No, there's absolutely nothing wrong with you. That's not the right food for what your body wants. So understanding that is important, but definitely a starting point is whole food, as you said. And then let's look at the products we put on our skin. The average woman puts over 200 products on their skin before they leave the house in the morning to go to work or start their workday if they're still working from home. Over 200.
Oh my gosh.
Right? And when we put it on our skin, it goes straight into our bloodstream. there's no liver to detoxify it first. It's going straight into our bloodstream in 26 seconds.
Wow.
So what are you putting on your skin? And in today's day and age, there's a lot of places where you can be buying products that are not toxic. But if you're buying your products at your typical store, like a Rexall, a London Drugs, what's it called in the States? It starts with a Walgreens, right?
Right. Yeah.
Those, a Costco, a Walmart, the products that you're buying there are loaded with toxins. And it's a shame because a lot of people think, well, there's the FDA and there's, Canada Health. And so don't they have to approve all of these things? They do, but unfortunately in North America, when it comes to all of these toxins that are being introduced, they allow them to be introduced first. And then if people want to prove them as being toxic, they have to fight back through the legal system to get them removed. And that's a really hard process to go through for 144,000 man-made chemicals, right? So it's backwards. In Europe, it's the other way around. They first have to approve they're safe. And so compared to North America, Europe only has 8,000 man-made chemicals that have been introduced. That's a big difference.
That's huge.
That is a big, big difference.
That's a huge difference. Yeah.
So again, we have to be reading the labels of the products that we're buying or choosing to buy products that are made from, natural products, oils and herbs and things through companies, like I buy my products through a variety of different companies, but, Young Living and doTERRA oils and Arbonne and companies like that have a far lower toxic load to almost no toxic load and are much safer than what you would buy in a grocery store or your local pharmacy.
Yeah. And I think, just speaking of that, I suspect that not all the ingredients are actually listed. It's like the food. And I look at that, I look at a paragraph, I do buy packaged food once in a while, and I just pick up the package and I look at the paragraph of information. And when I see a paragraph of ingredients, I just put it down right away. I don't even bother reading it.
Exactly.
And then the whole skincare thing, again, what is it then? You can see some of it. And a woman wrote a book, what's it, Beauty to Die For? A number of years, it was over 10 years ago, and listing all the ingredients. And some of them were actually cancer causing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, I guess, Melissa, kind of makes my blood boil when they are allowed to do that, that we have to prove them wrong or that this is harmful. And then they come up with, well, maybe you were already predisposed to that.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Yeah, so it makes it really difficult for the consumer.
It really, really does. It really does. And so it comes back to recognizing that you cannot trust in someone else when it comes to your health. You have to take responsibility yourself, right? Don't give up your power to your doctor, and don't trust that what our health authorities are allowing to get onto the shelves are actually healthy for us. All of those systems are out to make a buck. We literally have a food industry that doesn't care about our health, and we have a health industry that doesn't care about our food. And we have big pharma who optimizes shareholder profit over human health, which is why they're only too happy to give people with chronic illnesses a drug that they have to take every day for the rest of their life, as opposed to doing research to truly help someone heal. They're not motivated to do that because they're too busy trying to make the next billion-dollar drug for shareholder return.
Yeah.
But we can take action and we can do it ourselves, and it doesn't have to be difficult. So I don't want people to go away from this and feel overwhelmed and this is too hard and then do nothing. We know when people get overwhelmed, they do nothing. The reality is that it doesn't have to be hard. You can start taking baby steps. So when it comes to your food, etc., right? You might be thinking, oh, I can't ever buy something in a box again. No, I live by the 80-20 rule, right? So 80% of the time, I'm feeding my body in a way with nutrient dense meals that I know are serving my body. And 20% of the time, if I want to have some chips, if I want to, have a piece of pie that was bought in a box or something, right? If I want to have something that I wouldn't normally have, it's okay because my body can cope with it when 80% of the time I make the right choices and 20% of the time I'm not. Food is meant to be celebrated. We're eating with other people. We don't always have control over it and where it's going to come from, right? So enjoy the moment, enjoy the food, and don't stress over it because stress just turns off digestion and makes everything worse, right? Just know that, okay, that meal wasn't the best meal for me. That's okay because 80% of the time I eat really well. That's what matters, right?
Yeah.
And it's the same with the chemicals we use in our home, what we're putting on our body. I'm not somebody that says, okay, you have to throw everything out and start again. If that's you and you want to do it, go for it. What I recommend is when you finish something, replace it with a non-toxic option, right? I use the doTERRA all-purpose cleaner, and I love it. I mean, it comes in a small bottle, but then I put it into a spray bottle because it's really diluted. I use it for everything from the toilet to windows to everything. And so in doing that, I was able to get rid of all the other chemical cleaners in my house. And it lasts a really long time. And you just have one product. It takes up way less space too, right?
Absolutely.
I just have one in my bathroom upstairs and one downstairs under the kitchen sink. Easy. And it truly works. I use soap beads in my washing machine and they come in a tub and they have so many more washes than the chemical stuff that I used to use when I didn't know any of this. And I put 5 soap beads in a little baggie, throw it in with my wash. I can use that for like 5 different washes. In my dryer, I have dryer balls to help dry things more efficiently. I don't bother with those lint things that we used to know. What are they? The dryer sheets.
Mm-hmm.
And you can put oils on the dryer balls if you want to. I don't even bother with that. So there's so many things that we can be doing, but we don't have to do it all at once. We can just learn all of this and take baby steps to move us in the right direction so that we're always moving forward and improving things. And when I work with people as I guide them through detoxes, I give them all this information to make it easy. And we do talk about, great, you're detoxing your body. How else can we detox areas in your home, right? And I do a how not to retox after your detox, because that's important too. You've put 3 weeks of effort into a detox. You're feeling awesome. In some cases, people are saying, I can't remember the last time I felt this good. You don't want to just go back to all your old habits, right? So we're talking about, okay, what did you enjoy about this that you can now do every day? It's easy because you like it, right? When you like things and you like how you feel, you're motivated to do that. So I help people take the new habits into the rest of their life. And we don't just do one detox and we're done forever. I do recommend doing a 7-day quarterly because the toxins are always coming in. So you can always get them out. And in doing that, you're also not stressing about, oh my God, what toxins came in today, right? It doesn't matter because you're just going to do another detox in 3 months. I actually fast weekly because my body loves that. And that helps get those toxins out as well. And so I don't worry about, every little toxin that could be coming in. I do the best that I can do. I know I'm still exposed, but it doesn't bother me because I also know I'm taking action to help my body process them and get them back out. And I think that's what we can do. When we can focus on what we can control and the choices we make, that's where we can be effective in taking charge of our health. And it's interesting because to this day, in Ayurvedic medicine, Latin American cultures, Asian cultures, they still detox. It's just in the Western world where we've been taught that if you take a shower daily, that's excellent for good hygiene and good health. And we've completely forgotten about our inner body. And look at where all the chronic illness is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? It's starting in our inner body and it's in the Western world because we're not looking after our inner body. We've never been taught to do that. And a fun little story that I have I wish it were true today, but in ancient China and ancient India, The doctors didn't get paid if their villagers got sick.
Interesting.
So they were really motivated to teach their villagers proactive healthcare. But what happens in today's world? The doctors don't even see you until you get sick. There's no teaching of prevention.
No, and they don't get the nutritional information either.
No.
And now with this whole concept of that healthy gut microbiome, and the prebiotics are actually the plants, the food, the food we eat, and the importance of fiber, and and that's why we need to be our own advocate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I always tell people, because I have a lot of clients that come to me that are very frustrated by mainstream health and the lack of answers, or the only option being a lifetime of drugs, right?
Yeah.
And they're listening to their bodies and they're continuing to look for answers. And that's what we need to do, is if your body is telling you something's wrong and you go to your doctor who runs all these labs and tells you nothing's wrong with you, listen to your body and get a second opinion. Find somebody else who will listen to you and will believe you and has a whole different set of labs on the functional medicine side that we can run so we can figure out what's going on. And that's a holistic practitioner. But in mainstream, unfortunately, a lot of people are not being heard, not being understood, and they're being fobbed off, getting told, well, there's nothing wrong with you, come back when you get sicker. Because it's a sick care system. You have to be sick enough for them to give you a drug to cope. Whereas on the holistic side, we want the early warning signs so we can bring the body back into balance and that illness never has to develop.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been taking some Ayurvedic nutrition a program, and learning about the Vedics studied our digestive system like 5,000 years ago.
I know. I was just
Right?
going to say, this is really
this
old
is-
science.
Oh, it's old science, and they knew. I mean, they looked at the body, and when people were eating too much of one thing, then they were going, okay, so what? And they looked at, part of it was the spiritual side of us, right? And the sort of the lifestyle, and it's certainly not as hectic as it is today, because that adds a whole nother arena for us to deal with. And it was all about our digestion. So if the digestion was off, then they're doing what you're doing. Why? Why is that off, right? And being that detective, I think I'm just so appreciating that that's the work you do.
Well, and I love that they did that back then. And I'm very fortunate in my integrative health coach training that I was trained by a doctor who actually at age 17 was diagnosed with 3 different chronic illnesses and told by mainstream medicine that, sorry, you're never going to get better. Here's the drugs you have to take. And he was bedridden at the time.
Wow.
And he had his pity party. And then he decided, no, this is not why I was put here on this earth. I need to figure this out. If they can't help me, I'm going to go and figure out, I'm going to go and study other medicines around the world and figure this out and find out which is the best form of medicine. And so he became a naturopathic doctor, and he studied Ayurvedic medicine in Sri Lanka and India. He studied Chinese traditional medicine in Beijing. He studied orthomolecular medicine and bioregulatory medicine. And after all of that, decided, you know what, there isn't one best form of medicine, but you can take the best of each as needed to help people truly heal. It took him 10 years. He fully healed himself. He's just over 40 now and feels better than he did in his 20s, obviously. He has no more chronic illnesses, right? We can truly heal from these when we learn how. And so now he actually had a client list. He had worked with over 250,000 clients. He had a wait list that was more than a year long of people that wanted to see him. And he's like, I'm not serving people, making them wait a year for me. how can I better serve people? And so he created the Integrative Health Practitioner Organization and trained, he couldn't clone himself, so he trained other people to do his work. And so that's the training that I've done. So I haven't trained in these areas to the degree that he has. I've never been to India or Sri Lanka to study Ayurvedic medicine. I've traveled there, but never studied Ayurvedic medicine. But I can tap into his teaching and into his resources and all the resources that he provides to us and all of the teaching and training I've gone through to bring all of this into the work that I do with my clients. And these Chinese and Indian medicines that go back 5,000 and 6,000 years are really powerful. And they've been practiced on billions and billions of people. And even orthomolecular medicine, the medicine of therapeutic level vitamins, it was something people followed until the 1940s and 1950s. And that's what doctors used to help people heal. But Big Pharma came along with chemical pills and drugs and said all of that is nonsense. And they took control and they became the place we went to for healing and for health. But we now know that's actually been a mistake. That's where they keep us sick. And we need to go back to these medicines that are plant-based, that are 5,000 and 6,000 years old, that are provided by nature, that are truly what our body needs. It does not need more chemicals.
Yeah, absolutely. I was just thinking, I mean, people come to you, and I presume that they come to you and they've been probably hit by the brick.
Yes.
Not by the cosmic 2x4. And not everybody has somebody like you where they live. So I know some people, they hear people like you speak and going, okay, first of all, I need to search for somebody like you. And then in the meantime, I mean, you've talked about, looking at the packaging and the 80-20, I love that 80-20 rule.
Mhm.
And so that those are steps that you can take. And I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of herbs, what I've been learning in Ayurvedic nutrition and the cooking that I've been doing, that I add a lot more spices to
Mhm.
my food, because spices, and that's what they use a lot in India and other countries. They use spices in their food to actually help with that. It's healing, but it's also just keeping that body in that beautiful balance that it knows, right?
And it can help turn on digestion, and it can also help, kill pathogens too, right? Some of these spices,
Yeah,
depending what they are, right? They can be antimicrobials and kill parasites and all sorts of things. So it's very, very powerful. The wonderful thing about my work, though, to your point about not everybody has somebody like me near them, is my business is 100% virtual. So I do my sessions on Zoom. As you mentioned at the very beginning, the functional medicine lab tests that I run for people get mailed to their home with directions on how to do them. And I have my own directions, and we do all our sessions. So I work with the entire English speaking world, and it doesn't matter where somebody else is, that I can still support them. And that's the beautiful thing. I was doing this before COVID, but the beautiful thing from COVID is that people are more used to this now. And it works very, very effectively. So I have clients all over Canada, all over the US, some in Australia. And there's a few countries that we don't ship to, like down in the Caribbean and things. So I have people that are waiting to get back to the UK so they can work with me. But yeah, pretty much the entire English speaking world.
Wow, that's fabulous. So they just need to get hold of you. And actually, while that's kind of a perfect sort of step into you've got a free gift for the listeners who come to the summit, and we've kind of extended it for 4 days. So if you can't come in on November 22nd,
Right.
you can still listen and replay. We also have a VIP package where you can get a lifetime access to the recordings. Plus, there's all sorts of other little gifts. And I know that you've got the free gift, and I think you've got something for the VIP package.
I do.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. So my free gift is the quiz that I've been talking about. And so people can download that, give yourself, it doesn't take long to do. It's literally going through the symptoms that you might be feeling with your body. And it will let you know whether your toxic load is mild or moderate or severe or extreme. And it'll give you a score range. And then after that, you will get an email from me inviting you into a call so that we can discuss your results and what they mean and how you might like to move forward in your health journey. The VIP gift is my online course. It's normally $175, but it's for free for the VIPs. And it's 6 steps to better sleep. So as we mentioned earlier, you don't know what you don't know. We have 70 million Americans struggling with sleep every single day. I don't know the number for Canada, but I know it's high as well, right? And most people don't know the habits that we have every day that are negatively impacting our sleep. And so I break all of this down for you. We also tend to take our sleep for granted. And in busy days, we seem to shrink our sleep as we try to get more done. And you will learn why you actually want to start your day by prioritizing your sleep, because it's so important for your health. Your sleep directly impacts your gut health. It affects your ability to be resilient to the stresses in daily life. We are so interconnected. And so starting with sleep is really critical. And the online course you can do on your own time with your entire family. And all of you can learn to enjoy better sleep as a result.
Oh,
And change some habits that are easy to change. You just need to know.
yeah, I love that. And I think when you know something, it's like that gem of knowledge. And some people say, once you know something, you can't go back. I mean, and it's all choice, right? So you can
Right.
choose to continue to watch the TV before you go to bed, which isn't a good thing, because that's just all these impulses, the news or movies or whatever. Any technology is what I've been reading about.
It is, because it's emitting blue light, which is the light we get from the sun at high noon. So that does not tell the brain that we need to start producing melatonin, right? Back before the advent of electricity, the brain knew when to start producing melatonin, which helps us with sleep, because it was dusk. The brain doesn't have those cues anymore. So I talk about this in this program, is how can you create the cues for your brain? But the blue light coming from our screens is the worst thing. For every hour we are on a screen with blue light coming into our eyes, it blocks melatonin production for 30 minutes afterwards. So 3 hours on the screen in the evenings, whether that be TV, iPad, phone, computer, equals an hour and a half when you turn them off before the body can start producing melatonin, which we need to get into an optimal sleep cycle.
Wow, that's a huge informational piece.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we can change it easily.
Yeah.
So, on our phones, we can turn on night shift. We can wear blue blocking glasses for the TV. There's free apps you can download onto your computer. Just Get Flux. So I have all of these turned on. And Just Get Flux has a GPS system in it. So when I travel, it'll say, oh, it looks like you're here now. Do you want it to turn on based on this time zone? And so it will go from blue light to yellow light, which is much less harsh on the eyes, and it doesn't stop the body producing melatonin. So that's just one of the habits that you can change. That's easy to change, right? Once you know. That's just one of them that I share in my course alongside the 6 steps to getting better sleep. First, you have to understand what's going wrong and then how to improve it, right?
Wow, I love that. And I, as a speaker and a host, I'm going to sign up for that myself, because I have a big family, siblings, etc. And I'm pretty sure I might have the odd brother that knows this, but the others, I suspect, don't.
Yeah,
And we want to teach our children
exactly.
about these things too, and how often we, especially with the busy age and how easy it is to just watch things on tablets and TVs and phones even,
Yep.
and
In
not
own
realizing,
bedrooms too, right?
oh yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, crazy. I mean, so take
And
the
we just do it and it becomes a habit and we don't even realize it's becoming a habit. And then we just keep doing it because we've always done it and because we don't know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, who out there has been taught how to sleep? Nobody. There's no such thing as a sleep course because we're born knowing how to sleep. So then society assumes we always know how to sleep. Except the problem is in our modern world is we just have all these habits that have crept in that are now negatively impacting our natural ability to sleep.
Yeah.
And we haven't realized that. And so that's why I put this course together, was to help people, because again, sleep is, one of the pillars to optimal health. I can't say it's the number one because of course our nutrition and our gut health are right up there, but they're all important. And understanding the steps you can take to improve sleep, you're just going to enjoy life more. Let's face it, when you're tired and you don't have energy, you feel cranky. You're not showing up as your best self, right? And when you feel energized, you can show up as your best self. So
Absolutely. I love that. And actually, how can people get hold of you, Melissa?
So my website is yourguidedhealthjourney.com. And I'm on LinkedIn simply as Melissa Deally, Deally. I'm the only one with that spelling, so it's easy to find me there. And I'm on Facebook as Guided Health Journey and Instagram as well. I'm not a big social media person. LinkedIn is where I do the most. And then my website has lots of resources for people.
Beautiful. I just want to thank you so much for joining our summit and sharing your knowledge. And I know that the listeners will have gained a lot so that they can be their best version and sow their own seeds,
Mm-hmm.
right, for themselves and their family. So thank you so
Well,
much.
thank you so much for having me, because as you can tell, I'm passionate about this. I wish I knew so much of this earlier, and now I just want to share it with others. And then it becomes a choice for anybody that wants to step into their health journey. They can look me up and figure out how to get started. The last client call I had right before this session was somebody that wanted to be proactive in their health, get their baseline labs done now while they feel good. And I love that, right? We don't have to wait to get sick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
We are in control. We have so much more control than we've ever known before. And I just want people to know that.
Yeah. That's beautiful. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and wishing everyone a fabulous day.
Thank you.